I want to thank y'all for joining us today for our Tuesday Q&A webinar. We're going to be talking about FAFSA today. It's kind of a mouthful to say. And we've already received some questions from parents. But if you have a question at any time during the webinar, you can ask that and we will do our best to answer it live. All you have to do is type it into the Q&A feature. That's usually at the bottom of your smartphone, or if you're on their computer, it's at the bottom of your screen. You can click on that. Of course, if you have any other questions that come up at any other time, don't hesitate to reach out to anybody that's on this webinar. You can find everybody's contact information on our website. And you can email, you can parent square, you can call the school, whatever you need to do, and we'd be glad to help. I want to introduce our panelists and thank y'all for joining us. I think we have Miss Pinkerton. Did I see her flash through there?
But yes, she will be in here.
Okay. So Miss Pinkerton will join us. She's the Dean of Dual Credit and Academics for Snyder High School. Miss Rosas is our Work-Based Learning and P-TECH Coordinator. We have our counselors, Miss Beaver and Miss Early. And my name is Valerie Morris. I'm the Public Information Officer for Snyder ISD. So we'll get started. I know there's a lot to cover. And I also want to put in a plug for next Monday. There's going to be an in-person help session at the Student Center at 6 p.m. From what I've heard from parents, it's take advantage of the help. We are here to help you, and you definitely want to take advantage of it because there's a lot to cover. So we'll just dive right in. Are y'all ready?
As ready as we're going to be.
Okay. So the first question that I want to ask is what is FAFSA? What does it stand for, and what is it?
So it's a free application for federal student aid. And I think there is a really big misconception about FAFSA. You hear people say, well, I'm not going to qualify anyways. I'm not going to apply, but anything with scholarships, anything with any school, whether it's a four-year university, a junior college, a trade school, a technical school, they're going to require the FAFSA. And it just shows what type of grants and loans you qualify for, but then it takes it a step further. And any scholarships that you want to apply for through the schools or through anywhere else, they also require that you have at least filled it out. So whether you qualify for anything or not, it is definitely something that has to be done. TEA has taken it a step further this year and made it a graduation requirement. And honestly, my answer to that is they're wanting to take all barriers off the table. You have students who come and say, well, I'm not going to go to school because I could never afford it. Well, actually, when you start looking at it and you see the grants and things that are available and the scholarships that are available, it becomes a lot more affordable than you would think. And so I really feel like that's why TEA is doing this. They want students to see, oh, hey, I can do this. We can make this work. And so I think that's kind of their reasoning behind it. It's new for us this year. So we're learning with everyone. We've helped with FAFSA before, but it's not ever been a requirement. And so this year is our first year that they're saying, nope, if you're a graduate, you have to complete this as well.
And that's certainly a game changer. I know that requiring that now, it's requiring a lot more work from you all. And also, I like the idea of opening up the opportunities and reducing the barriers for other kids for sure. So I'm hopeful that will be helpful for them. So who all is eligible for financial aid? I know you said some people may not think they are, so they don't necessarily apply.
So that's going to be different for every student. They look at your tax returns, they look at the number of people in your household. Those are things beyond our control that higher people than us look at and decide whether you're eligible for grants, which grants are nice because you don't pay those back. Those are things that help you pay for school that you don't have to pay back. Now, it also can show you what student loans you are available to get, and those are things that have to be paid back. So we don't encourage those. If there's a route you can take to get your education without using a student loan, then we are 100% behind that. because we want these kids out of school debt-free and going to work. But if it comes down to it and you need that little bit extra to help pay for it, then that is there as well.
It's all the way to if both of your parents are alive or if one has been deceased. I mean, there is a ton of different scenarios that we operate through with. We're definitely not the experts. We have to go through every scenario that gets put towards us on FAFSA night, and we have to work through each one of them. And sometimes we even have to call FAFSA and be like, okay, the student needs it to say this and this, but that's not an option. And so we have to figure out how to get that information correct to FAFSA. So there is a ton of different things that matter whether or not they qualify for FAFSA. And then there's students that may not qualify for FAFSA. But you still have to have it filled out. For a lot of scholarships that you go and apply for at colleges, it is going to ask, have you filled out the FAFSA? So it's just, you have to have it done one way or the other. And I see the benefits of going ahead and having it done. We have students that come back to us in the summer after they graduate, because all along they were never going to go to college. And then they come back the summer after they graduate and they're like, hey, well, hold on, we need to pass the DSI and fill out the FAFSA, and some of those deadlines have already passed. And so that student is just out of the chance of earning grant money or whatever the case is to help them in that next year that comes around. So it's definitely a case-by-case basis when it comes to filling out FAFSA.
Well, and that leads to one of the other questions that we got. What is the deadline for FAFSA?
June 30th is what I looked that up yesterday. It was one of the questions and I did not know the answer.
However, it is first come, first serve, right? So it opens up October 1st, and we want students to get it filled out as quickly as possible. And that's why we're already working with them, because if you get first come, first serve and you go to wait all the way till the end of May and April, that's not the best way to be successful with that FAFSA money. And there's a ton of money out there that's available, and we want a piece of that here at Snyder. We want our students to be successful, and if it can help pay for something, then we want to do that.
Absolutely. And also to reinforce, it is often required for technical schools as well.
Yes.
So that was something a parent brought up to me also. She was surprised by that. So
if you're to go like to TSTC in Sweetwater or any of their locations, they require the FAFSA just like any other school.
So if a student misses the deadline, what happens? We don't want that at Snyder ISD, but what if?
But fortunately and unfortunately. Fortunately, here at WTC, we have the Opportunity Scholarship, and we always encourage everybody to start working on their opportunity scholarship hours so that is available. So we do have that availability here at WTC, which is unlike a lot of opportunities, right? And the unfortunate side of that is if they planned on going somewhere besides WTC, they are going to be paying possibly for that year, because it'll go for the whole year until October. You fill out the FAFSA for the following year. So we do not want that. We want everybody to have it done and know what their options are prior to graduation.
Got it. So bottom line, let's get it done October.
Yes, school. Ms. Beaver's correct. You can still go to school.
You just have got on the opportunities to help you pay for it.
Correct.
Money may be on the table for sure. Okay, so let me ask a couple of questions that have come in from some of our panelists, and thank you all for submitting those. If you want to ask a question you haven't asked yet, please feel free to submit that. We'll answer those live if we can. So the first question is, our granddaughter is 18 and she lives with us, not her parents. Does she use her income from her work or ours or her mom?
Well, that's one of those scenarios. In the rules of FAFSA, they are going to operate by her legal guardians and using that tax information. So if someone is still claiming her, there's a difference between a dependent and an independent student. If someone is still claiming her on their taxes, she is a dependent student and you have to use that tax information. If she is an independent student, meaning no one is claiming her on their taxes, then she can use her information as far as actually she'll put her information in anyway, but they will just go off of her information as an independent student. So we do have to be careful. I'm not sure their scenario on who is claiming that individual on their taxes, but that is the information they would use.
Okay, that was a good question. Okay, the next question that has come in is, what items do we need to have ready or take on Monday for the in-person help session?
Your whole life history. I'm just joking. Yes, a Chromebook is very helpful. Thank you, Miss Early. So Chromebook, some sort of, the phone is not really your friend on this. So bring in their electronic device, their W-2 information. A lot of the time we can link to the IRS website. We can link that information, but they do still have to put a couple of numbers in there. So their most current W-2 information that they filed with their taxes. Social security numbers are an important piece of information, as well as driver's license numbers, or some sort of a state ID to be able to put that number in if they do not have their driver's license. I think that's the information.
Okay, and I dropped that into the chat too as well, just that information. So that ought to get them started, but I bet it does feel like their whole life history for sure. This was another question that came in. What is the student aid report?
That's the report that you get back at the end after you fill everything out. And then it takes up to 2 weeks to get that back. In that student aid report, the SAR, they're going to tell you how much your family is expected to contribute toward the student's education based upon the income information that you did submit in your FAFSA, and then also how much money in grants, and how much that you're able to borrow from the federal government, basically, for school loans.
And so kind of like a summary.
Correct. And when you get the student aid report, you are able to accept or deny what aid they're trying to give you. So obviously, if they're trying to give you a grant, we're going to accept that. You do not have to pay that back. That is free money that you will use. If it's a loan, we're going to discuss that. What are your family's true financial needs? Is this something very serious? And we take loans extremely serious. We do not want students already in debt by the time they get out of college, but sometimes it's unavoidable, honestly. And then we need to know the difference in what loans they're offering. The third thing that they could be offering, and we want to make sure if anyone is trying to fill out the FAFSA on their own without help from us or coming to FAFSA night,
totally doable.
You can do it alone if you would like to. We're always here to answer your questions if you need. There is another option called the work study. It's very important when you go through the FAFSA to choose, yes, I would like to get information about work study. If you do not click that, then you are never allowed to do it for the whole year. And we want to make sure that our students have that available. Work study means that they can work on the college campus. It's very doable with their schedule of classes, and they get payment towards their tuition by doing that work study program. Some students say, oh no, I would never do that. I'm going to have a job over here, and they don't click that box. If you do not click it, you do not get that option for an entire year. And when you get to college, you realize my schedule is crazy. It doesn't work for me to go work in an outside retail store or something like that. Work study would have been best for them. So we encourage, you don't have to accept it, but you have to click that box to even be considered for it. So if you are trying to fill out the FAFSA without a help or coming to our FAFSA night, that is a really important piece of the puzzle. Please choose work study option to have it available to you.
And that's good information.
If you're offered a loan through FAFSA, through the SAR, if you want to talk to us about that, we'll be happy to talk to the student. But I mean, that's up to you as a family, what you are accepting, what you discuss as a family, however you have decided to pay for college, that's your decision. It's not our decision. We're here to help and help you get more information if you need it, look at different avenues if you need that.
but you don't have to go through us to accept that loan. That's up to you.
And ultimately, it's not us paying it back.
Right.
So we can't make that decision for parents or for students, but we can help guide and give other resources available.
All right, good information. We did have another question that came in about Pell Grants. She's asking, Pell Grant does not need to be paid back as long as the student is passing. Is that correct?
I don't know about the passing part, but you do have to stay within good standings to continue your financial aid. So you may be in one semester where you received the Pell Grant, and if you are not passing, then you may not receive that Pell Grant for the second semester. So colleges are split into semesters. So what you receive the first semester, you may get and may not have to pay that back. But if you do not perform adequately with your GPA, then the second semester, you may not receive that Pell Grant. That's how I think that question should probably be answered. I'm unaware of you having to pay it back after receiving it, but I do think you have to stay in good academic standing to continue it.
The opportunity waiver for WTC.
No,
I think
yes,
you do have to pay back if you do not maintain a certain GPA.
we will definitely
But
lose
that's
this,
a
yeah,
difference.
right. But Pell Grants, I think that's the correct answer for that.
Right. So really bottom line, any grants that you received, read the fine print to make sure what the requirements might be, because they may all be different. So be sure to do that with anything, but especially with that, so you don't have any surprises. So this is kind of ties into that. Each year, do people have to submit the FAFSA every year?
Yes,
Every year renew it.
your life is once a year.
Yeah.
Now it
Absolutely.
does, once you've completed it once, it does get a little easier because instead of going into a new application, you just renew. And you're able to relink your IRS and things like that. So most of the base profile information, as long as your situation hasn't changed, those things kind of repopulate and you can just click through a lot faster once it's established. Now, if there's been a change in the household or anything like that, then you will have to go all the way through and make the changes.
Okay. And if somebody needs to edit their FAFSA after they submit it, is that possible?
Yes, as a matter of fact. So several times we have had students that would go into verification. So I had a student last year, for an example, for whatever reason, somehow their FAFSA said he had already earned his bachelor's, and the college, of course, was not accepting him as a true freshman. So we had to go back in and edit his FAFSA that he did not receive his bachelor's. And I'm really not sure how it happened, but we had to go back in and edit that. And then they re-reviewed it and everything was fine. So yes, you can go back and edit that document, change for schools. You can add schools that it gets sent to, and those kind of things. Absolutely.
Okay.
Here to add all of your schools that you think you were interested in the first time. But you can go back in and edit, but it kind of resets it. If you go in and change anything, it kind of resets it. It resends that information to the schools, and it's not a huge deal. But if you know where all you're looking at to go, it's better to add all the schools the first time.
Okay. So same thing, if a student or a parent's income changes, can they edit that as well?
You can. I'm not sure if that change, it may change semester to semester, but I think after you've gotten your award for the first semester of college, I don't know that you can change that information to get awarded more during that semester, but it could possibly change what you get awarded the second semester.
Okay.
Like when you're talking about income, that I think that would be.
Okay. So can someone use the IRS data retrieval tool to import their tax information into FAFSA?
Yes,
It's the best way to do it.
it is. I think that is the
Easiest.
easiest if that's available for you.
So is there anything in particular that a parent would need to do to access that? Do they have to sign up ahead of time, or do they just enter their
Within
information?
FAFSA, it asks if you would like to link it.
And you put in your information like your social and stuff, and it finds you and it links you there. There's a variety of things that We have seen, like, if you're a business owner, sometimes it won't link it and you have to go ahead and put your information in. So that goes back to that case by case basis. So sometimes it won't let you link them for a variety of reasons, nothing bad necessarily. But for the most part, the linking is the easiest way to do it.
Okay. What are the different types of financial aid? We talked about grants, we talked about scholarships. Are there any other things that somebody might receive as far as financial aid?
So you have grants that you would get through FAFSA. You have scholarships that could be within institutional, like specific to the college that you're going to. Those could be academic related, or they could be income-based needs. So those are specific to that campus that you're going to, or that college you choose to go to. And then of course, there's a ton of scholarships out there, Coca-Cola, left-handed, all the different scholarships that you could apply for on the internet, that lots of money laying out there. I can tell you, if you think there's a scholarship about it, there probably is. So go search it up. So you have those kind of scholarships that are just kind of generic, that can go for anything. Work study is another way to get your school paid for that we already mentioned.
And then we have a lot of
loans, and then we have a lot of local scholarships. Listen to your counselor's offices and the announcements that they do. The counselors do a really good job at keeping up with local scholarships, and sometimes not very many people turn in applications for those. So, a book being paid for, or, a little bit of part of the meal ticket that you have at college. I mean, all of that helps. So local scholarships, maybe they're not as big and you're looking for the $10,000 scholarship or something, but $500 buys a book. Or maybe two, I guess, depending on the book, but that's important. So local scholarships are just as important as the institutional ones.
And so we'll make announcements about those in the spring as they become available. And we also will send out notifications for Parent Square to the students and the parents. And typically there will be a link where you could go and make a copy of it at home if you wanted to, or your student can come to the counseling office and pick up a copy of the scholarship. And everyone is different. The due dates are different. Whatever they're asking, yes, the requirements are different. You really just have to look and see what is it that I'm being asked to provide for this scholarship.
And we also put a list of scholarships as we get them on our website as well. Under the high school page, you can find those, a list of scholarships, and we try to put the due dates in there and links. But parents, if your kids are not telling you, you need to be asking them about scholarships. So, because I know the counselors are telling them, and sometimes things get lost in between school and home. So be sure to start asking them. About the springtime is when you all start putting out that information. Okay.
We start getting the local scholarships coming into our office, and we don't advertise until we get the paperwork for the scholarship. It may be a scholarship we do every year, but the contact person may have changed. The due date may be different than it was last year. So we don't advertise it until we get the new information for the new year.
Good deal. And when typically are financial aid packages awarded?
That depends on the scholarship, to be honest with you. Are you talking about for FAFSA?
Yeah, let's talk about FAFSA for that one.
2 weeks after you fill it out, you're going to know something as far as FAFSA is concerned.
And each school is going to be a little different as once they get the information and review it. They're going to check and see, have you applied? Have you been accepted? Have you completed other documentation that they need? So that's really going to be a school by school scenario of how long it takes for the actual school to give you a financial aid report.
As far as the local scholarships, that kind of depends on what that application and those needs. And a lot of the scholarships go straight to the institution that you tell them to go to, or some scholarships do give the student the money to use at college, whether it be for expenses for living or towards a book, something like that. So that's kind of different between each scholarship that you get, whether it goes to the school or to the individual.
Okay.
If students are applying for college through Apply Texas, which is something that we are encouraging them to do, Apply Texas can also link the student after they finish the application to the scholarship application form for that college or university and that they are applying to.
That's actually a really good point to bring up. So I'm very glad that the speaker brought that up. For example, Apply Texas, we had a student do Apply Texas for Texas Tech and a couple of other universities. And Texas Tech wants you to then go to their website and fill out their scholarship application, because it goes like for a lot of scholarships. So that one application can send you out to multiple scholarships. So that is really important to read in every institution. Unfortunately, every institution is a little bit different, but I have found financial aid offices to be very helpful, just to pick up the phone and call, be like, I got to make sure I did this right because I need money for school. So they're very helpful to making sure that they get that. And I do want to clarify, one misconception is if I have a student that is graduating with their associates here at the high school, you are a true freshman when you go to that college, to that four-year university. You are not a transfer student, and we want to make sure that we fill out the paperwork correctly. You are a true, yes, your hours will transfer, but you are a true freshman and you go and apply for all the first year scholarships that you can. So that is a misconception that a lot of students and parents don't understand. Just because you're graduating high school with your associates, you're still a true freshman when you go to that four-year university. So we want to make sure that that's clear.
That's good information because I'd heard that as well. So I'm glad you cleared that up for me too. So, okay, we've got about 3 minutes left. I want to remind you, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we can answer those. While we're waiting to see if anybody has any other questions, do you all have anything else that you'd like to reiterate?
Senior year goes really fast, guys. So please start filling this stuff out right now, because it will just all of a sudden be gone. And so we want to make sure that we take care of this. I'm not sure if you said it, we'll be visiting in the government and the economics classes to kind of try to help move the process along and get kids started that may have questions. So we will be visiting with them in the coming couple of weeks to kind of make sure that we're on a deadline there. But yes, don't wait. I think that's my biggest take on this. You have anything?
I was just thinking, like, with Apply Texas, we'll be talking with economics and government classes about that, but making Apply Texas kind of one of the priorities with FAFSA, because it can help streamline a lot of the applications, because sometimes a lot of the information can carry over through. We've had the question about application fees. You still have to pay your application fees. It's not like a one and done thing on Apply Texas. It's per college, however it works. Unfortunately, not every college or university is on Apply Texas, but a whole bunch of them are moving towards that. So that's one reason why we're going to be working a lot through Apply Texas with our seniors.
And come next week
Yes.
to the FAFSA night.
We do get a lot done on FAFSA nights, and we're usually very successful in getting everything done when you walk out feeling pretty accomplished. Occasionally they've got to verify things, but for the most part, we're pretty good.
And financial aid people from the college are there. They sometimes know a question or answers to questions that we don't know because they've dealt with it more.
And tomorrow we're taking juniors and seniors to WTC to their college fair. So if your student does not know exactly what they want to do, maybe they can find some spark out there. So tomorrow morning we'll be doing that.
That's great. Okay, well, there's no other questions. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank you all for joining us. If you know of somebody that has a senior and they were not able to make this webinar, we will publish this here in probably the next 3 to 4 hours is when we'll have it uploaded on the website at snyderisd.net/QA. We'll have that there. So if they missed it, fill them in, but also encourage them to rewatch the video so they can hear all of the information. So thank you all so much for joining us. And we're actually going to be on, if you happen to have a kid at the intermediate campus, we're going to have a Wednesday Q&A tomorrow because we just have so much to talk about with Miss Cade from the intermediate campus, and she's going to give us an update then too. So thank you all so much. Have a great day.